finish. This is not going to be a drag race. Who took that one? What a finish! This is not going to be a drag race. Who took that one? What a finish! This is not going to be a drag race. Who took that one? What a finish! This is not going to be a drag race. Who took that one? What a finish! This is not going to be a drag race. Who took that one? What a finish! that one? What a finish!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 2 of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, Season 5, the Germany Tour here at Lausitzring. I am Stephen Stewart, your commentator for this epic race tonight. Today we will witness our drivers taking on a challenging DTM 2021 layout with its demanding mix of high-speed corners and technical sections. And you will notice there is a very deep and wide banking similar to the one at Homestead and the Daytona circuit that we have used previously. I do apologize for the delay in the stream this evening. We are facing a few technical difficulties, as it seems something has been going awry at our current location, and unfortunately 2 of our computers are down. So we just had to get some last minute fixes sorted out, and now we are back and ready for the action as we are in the qualifying session with 10 minutes remaining. Rohir Robinson being the first to put down a proper time with a 1:44.163, which has been the fastest lap we've seen all week, and I'm sure we will see that time dropping more and more as the session goes on. Jaden and who is it? I think Kimani Eastman and Roger Kello were the others in the 44s, so we'll continue to watch and monitor that. We have two new entries this evening, Mr. John Singleton as well as Rodrigo, who I believe is named Seno, in this session. They are the two, one from Australia, one from Canada, who are assisting us with the development of the Palisados racetrack out in well, Palisados, to say the least. Yes, so they are the two newest drivers on the track, and we'll continue to watch and monitor them. As we see Mr. John Singleton there putting the fastest sector 1, but very off in sector 2, so we'll continue to watch and monitor as his time should go down. Kimani Eastman and Jaden Harrison are the next two out of pocket at the moment, who should be making it into the 44 sooner than later. We have Iman Rayan, who we are not used to. One of the quicker drivers and somebody that we always enjoy having with us here at the JSRA, setting his fastest lap of his session this evening with a 1:44.941. So we'll continue to watch and monitor that as that goes along. But there goes Kimani Eastman to take back that position away from him. Jaden Harrison is the only one so far who has not put an indicative lap, so we'll continue to watch and monitor that as the session continues. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for that brief intermission as I am still here working on the hardware that we have here at the JSRA. Just making sure that everything is running smoothly because for whatever reason, once the racing begins, everything has to come down. But Rohir Robinson now being the first in the 143s, he did mention after last week's I'm not going to say embarrassment, but destruction from Mr. Dominic Charles taking P1 in both race 1 and race 2. He and Jaden Harrison fought it out in until the last lap, where Jaden touched the grass slightly and just left the door right open for Mr. Charles. And Rohir Robinson was he was a far road ahead from P4, but from P3, from P2 and P1, he was a good few seconds off. So he was stating that, that can't happen again. So him now stamping his level of dominance now 2/10 clear of our resident Max Verstappen, Jaden Harrison, and the two are only 2/10 separate. The next competitor is 7/10 from the car ahead, or car behind, my apologies. So we'll continue to watch that gap because we know Jaden is one that loves to qualify in the latter stages and leave his best lap for that last lap, but so does Mr. Rohir Robinson. Roger Keller as well is sitting not comfortably in P3 because between himself and Mr. Singleton, that's about a second gap, 9/10 gap between himself and P6, but P4 and P5 are only a 10th each down on Mr. Keller, the Swiss driver. So we'll continue to watch on monitor as that that very near and close battle comes in. Kimani Eastman, silver class driver, has already gotten his first podium of the season last week, getting his first official JSRA podium, and clearly has gotten a taste of it and said he wants more. His pace in free practice was even better than what we're seeing now, so I'm sure now it's just putting pedal to paper and making sure that he can gain that position. Hopefully he can see if he can reach a little bit closer, but as it stands, Jaden Harrison is now only 500ths down on Mr. Robinson. So the fight for P1 and P2 is going to be absolutely epic. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we'll have Mr. Charles back. Neither of them, actually. Neither of them. For this evening's race, one not being home, I'm sure the other is the same, because typically if they get the chance to, they will definitely try and make it. But nonetheless, we have a grid of about 9 drivers. We still have a few more who should be coming in, so hopefully they can make it within the next 2 minutes before the qualifying session has concluded. For anybody who has missed it, we are visiting the Lausitzring circuit, the 2021 DTM layout in Germany. One that is very well new to a lot of these drivers, if not all drivers, but nonetheless has showed some very fun racing in this week's practice session. So I'm sure the drivers are looking forward to the session to come. We do have the hybrid system enabled, and we're very much so looking forward to how they will be strategically placing that, because there are a few notable corners, and we'll go over that briefly, where drivers can definitely take that extra look and say maybe they can throw one on the inside and be relatively on the safe side. But there goes Mr. Jaden Harrison with a 143.784, 2/10 clear of Mr. Robinson behind him. So Rohir, definitely, again, we did say it, the two love to put in a lap at the last minute and then leave it for the drivers to see if they can throw an extra wrench into the screw. But we'll continue to watch and monitor that as we go on with about 20 seconds, 30 seconds remaining in the circuit in this qualifying session. We continue to watch and monitor these gaps, but so far nobody seems to be improving. Kimani Eastman now does take that P3 position with a 144.274, maybe seeing that Mr. Charles is not here, so this is his opportunity to gain back another podium position. And again, we've noticed in the past where Jaden Harrison and Mr. Rohit Robinson have found themselves into some form of drama. So we'll continue to watch that because you never know what can happen, and that will just leave a door wide open for Kimani Eastman in this session. So again, who knows? We'll watch and monitor that as the race goes on. But 20 minutes are coming up with two 20-minute sprint races, my apologies, that we are definitely looking forward to. Rohit Robinson could not improve on that lap. This is John Singleton making his way around to see if he can improve even a position or two, but we'll watch and monitor that. But nonetheless, what a full week we've had. We've had Jaden Harrison qualifying with the fastest lap of our qualifiers for the ACC GT3 classification for the FIA Motorsports Games. So now we have the Formula 4 variant starting tomorrow at 8 a.m. So if you haven't signed up and you want to enter, please feel free, because it is open to all Jamaicans for you to have a chance at setting your own laps and getting your own opportunity to represent your country in Valencia, Spain in the 2024 FIA Motorsports Games. We have the F4 qualifiers now starting tomorrow between 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. on Sunday. So you will have 24 hours to put your best shot of the fastest average lap amongst 10 laps, and it has to be consistent. So it is challenging, but nonetheless it is something that we believe will be able to give the drivers the best indication of a race pace, albeit a little bit under less pressure than what you'd have been in a race setting, but nonetheless to do 10 laps consistently at a high pace. We are doing it at the circuit of Navarra in Valencia, Spain. So again, that is not an easy track. That is not an easy track at all. So we'll continue to watch and monitor that as the race goes. As the qualifying session has concluded, we'll just take a brief moment to take a look at the trailers for the 2024 season. As seen Taj now in the comments, 10 clean laps, at a very quick pace. We saw it very difficult last week at the in the ACC GT3 series at Valencia in Spain. So we'll continue to watch and see how difficult it will be for the drivers tomorrow. Taj is one of the entrants, so yes, he is seemingly very much interested and very happy and excited to see what he can come and put down, because he has shown himself to be somebody very quick in the iRacing platform, especially in the Formula 4. So somebody who I'm very much so excited to look and see what can be done. I am also noticing Mr. Wallace in the chat, and yes, we have the Palisadoes racetrack out in, well, obviously in Palisadoes, under construction, and we are in actually phase 3 of that development, and we just got the LiDAR scan for it. So Mr. John Singleton and Rodrigo, my apologies, who has a beautiful RX-7, if I do say so myself, are the two lead developers of that circuit, and we are very excited to release that to the public and to the Jamaica Karting Association to help with development of the karters, local and abroad. We are looking to have our own international championship along with them, so I'm very happy and excited that they took the time out this evening to, well, morning for one and evening for the other, to race with us this evening, and I am very much so excited for what is to come. If you notice the brilliant liveries that we've made and adjusted for this new generation 3 of the Caribbean Touring cars, you will notice the license plate might look a little bit familiar to the Jamaicans in 1962 JM, as we just actually celebrated our Independence Day. But nonetheless, the Driver Academy This CTCCs, as most of you know, is our development series. So we are looking forward to using these cars to really help drivers gain a little bit more race craft and learn a little bit more about how the intricacies of these races go. So nonetheless, we'll continue and ride along board. We have Jaden Harrison in P1 there in his Honda Civic, followed by Rohey Robinson in the Hyundai in P2. Kimani Eastman currently sitting on the podium in P3. Roger Keller of Switzerland in P4. Iman Rayan in P5. The Brunei driver, we have not seen him in a while. He did not get much practice, but nonetheless, somebody to look out for. Luis Arenas of Colombia in P6. John Singleton in P7. Nicholas Donald in P8, and as it stands, Seno in P9. We apologize, he should have his name corrected, but he was a late entry. But nonetheless, we will get that corrected for the next race. And now, as we have less than 20 seconds remaining for the start of this race, ladies and gentlemen, this is round 2 of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship at the Lausitzring DTM 2021 layout. We have 6 lights on the way and we will get racing in less than a moment's time. I cannot wait to see especially what the top 2 drivers will be fighting it out for, plus P3 all the way down to P1. But there goes John, who seems like he got a jump start. Looked like he was a little too early there. Rohey Robinson does get the inside line and will be, I'm sure, trying to make a move stick early on, but nonetheless, no, he is right there to maintain in P2. Jaden Harrison in P1, Kimani Eastman P3, Roger Keller. So all positions have basically been at a standstill. And these drivers are now heading into turn 2, and right here is going to be a late dive by Roger Keller. And right here, who is that? Mr. Arena, seeing if he can make a move right here. Especially, you're going to see the suspension work of these Caribbean touring cars, as these cars, that section of the track is extremely bouncy, and the drivers will definitely be trying to maintain the speed while maintaining the balance of their cars. Kimani Eastman does hold through for P3, and Roger Keller in P4, Emmanuel in P5, and Luis Arenas in P6. The gaps are separated by mere tenths throughout the field. Only 1 second between Luis and Iman, and we know Luis will be one to make his move sooner than later, and we'll continue to watch that. But right now, Emmanuel, as a matter of fact, John Singleton, seeing if he can make that move, but does have the outside line heading now into turn 7, if I remember correctly, and does not make that move stick. So Nicholas Donald, I believe, was the one we just saw running off track, unfortunately, but we'll continue to watch and monitor that as John Singleton is now only 4/10 off of the car ahead, and the 2 drivers from AC Karting are the closest on the field at the moment. And as a matter of fact, my apologies, there's Roger Keller. 3/10 is the gap between himself and Kimani Eastman. So we'll watch and monitor here as the slipstream in these updated cars are very much so updated, and you will feel effects. Plus the hybrid system, you have 15 seconds per race, per lap, my apologies. As you can see, Mr. Roger Keller just gaining on Mr. Kimani Eastman, get side by side, but there maybe Kimani using a little bit of his hybrid system in defense to pull back that gap and gain back that advantage. And there they go, right here again, very bumpy. So you see the suspension moving up and down as they go around these corners, and that does put Emmanuel now in the looks to say maybe he can gain that position on Mr. Keller, but not close enough, but close enough that he can maybe mount an attack sooner than later. But nonetheless, John Ingleton and Luis Arenas now fighting it out for P6. It is John with the inside line, and right here, maintain, if you can carry it out as wide as you want, touch that curb on the outside, and there goes the move stock. We'll be looking to, I'm sure, maintain that inside line now as Luis does seemingly look like he wants to take the move, and there he goes with a late dive bomb, clean enough, and gets the exit to take back the position from Mr. John Singleton. these two are seemingly finding their own rivalry here this afternoon, this evening here with these Caribbean touring cars. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have a little bit of drama in the fold for this evening's race, because we do want to throw a little bit of drama every time we can, and we have tested it all week, and we will possibly be getting rain at some part in this race, and that will throw a little bit of drama into this mix. As it stands, though, John Singleton and Luis Aridas will be fighting it out for P6 as the race goes on. Roger Keller is only 3/10 on, so he seems like he gets turn or sector 1 properly, and then after sector 1, that's where Kimani tends to excel, because the gap always closes down heading down into turn 1, and then there goes Kimani just getting the better exit and runs through from from turn 2 all the way down to about turn 5. He is just consistent, so you'll see that gap extend from that 3/10 gap to now about 4/10, 5/10, and he will be using this time to get away from Mr. Keller. But Mr. Keller, we know, is very strategic and will be maybe making his move at some latter stage in the race, but we'll continue to watch that as 15 minutes are now on the board in this race session. The closest battle is still Mr. Singleton, who is seemingly trying to see if he can make that move going around there. Luis opened the door and left a draft for Mr. Singleton to come in, and he saw it and took it. Unfortunately for Mr. Singleton, right now it's the left side is where you want to be on track, unless he can maybe pull a little switcheroo, as he does try to hug that curb a little bit tighter than the Colombian ahead of him. But nonetheless, Mr. Arenas has more than enough pace and more than enough craft to maintain that position, but now has a charging Senna right there on the rear of his car, and there goes Mr. Singleton. Not sure what happened there, and does lose out. Had to take evasive action, and now had to just jump out of that move and get back onto the track. So we'll continue to watch that, but nonetheless, he heads into the pits. Is the Australian. We'll continue to watch and monitor. Not sure exactly what had happened there, but we'll take a look at some point after the race. But nonetheless, we continue to watch as the Colombian has a charging Mr. Senna right behind him, heading for him in his slipstream. We'll take a look with Mr. Rohir Robinson and Jaden Harrison now, as these two are the next two that you want to be watching on board for, but the skies do look a little bit clear, so we'll check the weather report in only a moment's time and give you an update with regards to that. And ladies and gentlemen, I looked away for a brief moment. Rohir Robinson is in P1 now with the charging Jaden Harrison, now having to be very strategic to see where he can come in and maybe make that move and gain back that position on Mr. And I'm not sure what happened there. I'm checking in the servo settings to see what could have happened. That's unfortunate there for the drivers, because that battle up front was brewing. And ladies and gentlemen, let me try and figure out what just happened. ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize. But again, unfortunately, we are having some technical difficulties here, but the servo has been restarted for whatever reason is a little bit beyond me. And there goes the drivers, I'm sure, losing concentration and trying to figure out what happened themselves. But nonetheless, the race has been restarted. And the drivers are back on the way. I'm sorry, I have lost all sense of what's been going on this evening. I think the devil is trying to attack, but nonetheless, we'll watch and hope and pray that everything will even out itself as the day goes on and on and on. But as it stands, we do have Mr. Rohit Robinson again back in P1. Jaden Harrison is following much bigger gap, 1.3 seconds is himself to Mr. Robinson, so does have some work to do. John Singleton clearly was the best winner out of everybody, finding himself up into P3. Roger Keller there in P4, Luis Arenas in P5, Kimani Eastman, who was on the podium and very comfortably himself, unfortunately for him, is now sitting in P6, but has some work to do, has the Colombian in front of him. He does have 18 minutes remaining, so we'll continue to watch as that session continues, but 18 minutes is the gap now. These drivers must be so tired, as this track is very demanding, especially with the bumps. You'll see the suspension usage in the cars on a track like this, and this is why we do all the testing in the preseason, so that we know how the cars will react, how they will behave in each session. As we see Mr. Kimani Eastman there in the background making a move on the Colombian, does have the outside line coming in, but now we'll be moving back onto the inside outside. Now again gets that ID line, should get a run, and does come out side by side, gets that little bit extra of speed coming through, having that ideal racing line. But at the moment, Luis would have the defensive line, but at the same time, Kimani Eastman would have the faster line around, as you see him doing what's slightly a switcheroo there, trying to see if he can gain that advantage back. But nonetheless, we will continue to watch and monitor that. Gap now is 4/10 to the car ahead. Roger Keller is only 5/10 behind Mr. Singleton in front of him, so we'll continue to watch that as well as that race goes on. Emmanuel has been the biggest loser out of everybody, falling back to P9, but has already made himself right there on the rear end of Mr. Nicholas Donald, and will be trying to make that move stick. So there goes Kimani Eastman now on the inside of the Colombian, and I'm sure we'll be hugging that inside line heading into the next two sequences of corners. But here in the next corner by turn one, it's almost, if you know how to drive the oval, this is the perfect opportunity for you to bridge that gap from the cars behind. But as we've seen with Mr. Eastman in the past, in the I want to say the first race or first variance of the race, Kimani was definitely slower in that oval section to Mr. Roger Keller, but in every other section could make his way. But now he had Mr. Keller behind, he has him in front now, and will be trying his best to see if he can make that time gain right back to him, and start putting or mounting back that attack for the next race, or for the duration of this race, my apologies. So the gap at the start of this lap was 1.7 and is quickly dwindling. Roger Keller does have the Australian in front of him, and he will be slowing him down, but there goes John having to back off slightly, and now Kimani has one more buffer again in between himself and the Swiss driver and the podium. With 15 minutes remaining, I'm sure he'll be trying his best to see where he can gain back an advantage and catch back up to the drivers ahead. That 1.7 gap has dropped down to 1.23 seconds, so we'll continue to watch that as these drivers fight it on and they make their ways through the pack. Jaden Harrison now has dropped that gap as well from 1.3 seconds to 5/10 of a second. So we watch and monitor that as it goes along. Those two are 5 seconds clear of the field and clearly in a world of their own as they set a 144 flat, 144.4, and the next drivers are in the 45s to 6s. So we'll continue to watch and monitor as these drivers are leading on and on and on. I think Kimani Eastman's weakest place on track is sector 1, so I think after sector 1 he should be driving and seeing where he can gain back that advantage on the car ahead and then head up to Mr. Roger Keller, the Swiss driver, and gain that final podium position. I will keep his name out of my mouth for the rest of this race until he's found himself back in the podium positions or closer to, but nonetheless 6/10 is the gap. I'm telling you, sector 1 is his weakest spot, or it's where everybody is just even, and in sector 2 he is just blisteringly fast as that gap has dropped down now to 6/10 of a second, and the gap between John and Roger is 1 second itself. So at least that's about a 1.5 second gap, 1.6 second gap to Mr. Keller ahead, so it's at least not too far. So I'm sure he will be trying to dispatch quickly off the Australian in front of him to see if he can gain back that advantage on the driver ahead. And there the clouds are getting darker as we're told of rain. We'll continue to watch and monitor that, as maybe there will be some form of drizzling, some form of rain to maybe throw a little bit more drama into tonight's race. And the gap now is 5/10 or 500ths of a second, and there goes Kimani Eastman on the inside, gets the run on the Australian not giving it up though, but as it stands, Kimani Eastman is in that ideal position to make this move stick, but there they go, almost side by side. You don't want to go too wide, but there they go, side by side. I'm sure, is he using that? I'm not hearing the tone of the engine change, so that could not be the hybrid system. This is all on merit as he heads down. We look for that 50-meter mark, slam on the brakes and see where you can gain back that position, but nope. John does live to fight another day, but there goes Kimani Eastman trying his best to make the moves, just throw off his competitor, and does, again, like we saw with him and Luis, does get that ideal line to get out of that corner and head down as quickly as possible. Rohey Robinson and Jaden Harrison now as a bump now to see who can come up victorious. Rohey Robinson did lose out for a moment's time there to Jaden Harrison, but luckily himself has put the elbows out, and that gap has extended right back to 4/10 of a second. Rohey Robinson came P3 in last week's race and definitely does not want to say a repeat of that. P3 and P2 does not want to say a repeat of that, so he's clearly trying his best to close back that gap in the point standings to I think he should be ahead of Jaden Harrison, as Jaden came P4 and P2 and Rohey came P2 and P3, so I'm sure he's just trying to close the gap now to Dominic Charles, who was in P1 and P1 for both races. We'll continue to watch and monitor as that goes along, but there they go. Kimani Eastman now 10ths off Mr. Singleton, and that gap to Roger Keller is now extending. So that is not what Mr. Eastman wanted. He wanted to dispatch as quickly as possible of the car ahead, but unfortunately cannot find his way past. Again, you have 15 seconds per lap to use that hybrid system, but you can use it in offense, you can use it in defense. Either way, it has to be used, or you can save it up until the end. It does charge at a very slow rate. It is similar to the BTCC cars that comes in the the hybrid system in the BTCC cars in real life. So we've tried to mimic or build our own replica of that for our Caribbean Touring Car Championship, and so far it has borne some very beautiful fruit in the sections of this race. Emmanuel, the Bruni driver, now trying to see where he can make that move. Looks left, looks right, just try to send a dive, but nope, not close enough on that Ford Focus in front of him, and I'm sure has the pace, as you see him there hogging that inside line, trying to see where he can gain that advantage. Almost almost looking like he's ready to push the driver. And there he goes on the inside line. That should have been the defensive line. Hits the 100 marker, braking zone. I think he should get that move stuck, because I believe Senna did drive a little, brake a little bit too late, but nonetheless, the two are still very much so side by side, heading into the final sequence of corners. You take a look, and that is not where you want to be on track in that in particular moment. And there goes Senna, saving and protecting his position this evening, and saying and stamping that dominance and saying, no sir, you're going to have to work a little bit harder. But there goes Kimani Eastman, finally making it through 2/10 quicker on that lap, and is still trying his best to see where he can gain that advantage. But as it stands, that looks like move done. But guess what? 3 seconds is the gap between himself and Mr. Roger Kello. So at this very moment, I'm sure Kimani Eastman is just going to be hoping for maybe a change in the weather, maybe something to slow down and mess up the drivers ahead. But nonetheless, as it stands, it looks very much so even patch, and P4 will be his position, but you never know. But nonetheless, there goes Mr. Singleton, throwing a move on the inside and taking that move back, that position right back from Mr. Eastman, the Jamaican, and gets back that P4 position to gain that best of the rest from the Jamaican, and he will not be relinquishing that position too quickly, says the Australian driver. So we will continue to watch and observe this battle as it goes on, because this seems like a very fun race in the making for these two drivers. Sweating, and I'm sure Kimani is hoping and praying we're not watching him. So we'll move on right back to Mr. Senna and Mr. Iman Rayan, who I'm guessing made that move stick coming out of the final sequences of corners. And there goes Iman, now building an 8/10 gap to the car behind. What a race this has been, ladies and gentlemen, and it's 8 minutes remaining. I am still very sorry that the session just restarted like that. It just threw off the drivers, I'm sure, and even though they must be, I'm not going to lie, they must be tired, especially with another 20-minute reverse grid on the way right after this. But we'll continue to watch and monitor as we ride along now with Jaden Harrison coming out of turn 1, heading down now into turn 2, see where he can make that move stick on his fellow Jamaican teammate driver, Mr. Rohe Robinson. Teammates in every other regard other than in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. These two are competitors of the highest order, and will not be relinquishing this battle too quickly, as we've seen in the past. And with only 6 minutes remaining, please be reminded that there is a +1 lap after the session, so we'll continue to watch and monitor that. But that being said, the gaps are still relatively about the same throughout the field, and we'll continue to watch as the battles go on. But ladies and gentlemen, is that what I'm seeing? I heard it in the on the radio that there was a little bit of rain coming in, but that does look like some drizzle is coming on board, ladies and gentlemen. And we will watch as these drivers now have to go on or fight through with rain on their tires, and they are on the dry tire as it stands. So right now it is slow down and try and get back to the pits as quickly as possible and try not to die too quickly. But there's Rohe Robinson now. 1.8 seconds is the gap between himself and Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison clearly feeling the effects of the rain now, and they have a full lap now to try and get back to the pits without dying, and the rain is getting harder and harder with 5 minutes remaining. Who will be the victor? We do notice Mr. Donald, who I guess being at the back of the pack does help you in some regards, will be trying his best to see if he can gain back and see if he can undercut the drivers as he was coming around, maybe notice the rain on his car, and now comes out of the pits on the wet tire. So now he is the one with an advantage. Will he gain any positions on the cars behind him, in front of him? My apologies, this does look like a very light drizzle. The gap has dropped from 1.8 now to 0.3 of a second. So Jaden Harrison or Rohey Robinson, maybe them finding themselves as Jaden Harrison overtakes right before the pit entry. And there goes Rohey Robinson. Jaden maybe baiting his competitor into speeding up there because maybe he did not know where the pit entry line was. But there it goes, and that would be Rohey Robinson's race unraveled. Nicholas Donald now coming around by turn 5 around that hairpin of a corner. So where will he come out when he comes around the final section of this track? The wet tires are being put on. Jaden Harrison, it seems as if some drivers decided, nope, we're not going to be coming in for the wet tires, I'll take my time, and it does come out now in P4, P3. Was this a better move with 3 minutes remaining? Only time will tell. But Jaden Harrison and Roger Keller are the two. Well, Roger Keller again as well did not pit. So I'm going to watch and see how his times are reflecting, as his last lap was a 2 minutes 1 second. Jaden Harrison 11 seconds off of him, so I'm sure we'll be trying his best to catch back up as quickly as possible. Rohey Robinson now on the rear end of the Jamaican. So on top of that drive-through penalty, yes, he is or lost track position to Mr. Harrison there on the exits of the pit. So clearly did not have his strategy set, could not tell you. But that 11-second gap to Mr. Keller has now turned to 9 seconds. So was that the right move for Mr. Keller, as he has the charging Jamaicans right there in his rear view on their way? Nicholas Donald apparently unfortunately did not make any undercuts, but at least got a little bit closer to the cars behind, and I'm sure will be trying his best to see where he can catch back up. But there is Rohey Robinson and Jaden Harrison's 8 seconds. Is it to Roger Keller? As it stands, Jaden Harrison has the pace to catch up and maybe even pass Mr. Keller. We'll see how the defense goes with 2 minutes remaining. Rohey Robinson now seemingly taking his drive-through penalty, and I'm sure we'll be trying to get that done as quickly as possible. But there goes Roger Keller again, staying out on the dry tires. 2 minutes 8 seconds was his time. So with a minute 32, he is provisionally on pole. But I'm sure that will be dispatched rather quickly, as that 11-second gap has dwindled now to 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 2.8, and that is his race. I'm sure he will be, well, trying his best, I'm sure, to get out, as we see Mr. Robinson now exiting from the pits, and Mr. Seno is as well on the wet tire, so he would be feeling the effects as well, even if he does come out ahead. No, he does not. Kimani Eastman as well is on the hunt for the two in front, plus Roger Keller. It's 55 seconds remaining, plus 1 lap, depending on where these drivers come out. Roger Keller, it seems, had an incident, it seemed, with Jaden Harrison, and the wet tire, dry tire on the wets is not the ideal strategy. But nonetheless, now Rohey Robinson has to fight his way back to see if he can catch back up to at least, well, he's definitely going to catch Mr. Keller at this pace, but Seno and Mr. Keller and Mr. Singleton are the three on dry tires. Kimani Eastman, who did pit for wets, are just made that move stick on Mr. Singleton, and will be heading down now for Seno in the final stage of this race. So the battle really and truly is for P3. Will we see Kimani Eastman catch back up? He has about 19 seconds. Let me do my maths and make sure that I was correct. He has about, sorry, my apologies, about 15 seconds to Mr. Keller for that final podium position. Mr. Keller doing his best to see how he can hold on to that position. Did pull the strategy to go long on the dry tires. It is time has elapsed. So after this time, when Jaden Harrison passes this line, the start finish line, it is now the final lap. So Jaden Harrison now leads from Roger Keller, from Rohir Robinson, from John Singleton, and then Kimani Eastman to follow. Did I see John go into the pits? Yes, I did. So very late call there for him, and I'm sure we'll hear about that in the briefing. But nonetheless, Kimani Eastman, 11 seconds to catch back up to Mr. Roger Keller. He will be on the hunt to see if he can gain back that final podium position from the driver ahead of him, the Swiss driver. 8 seconds is the gap. He must be hoping and praying that Mr. Keller does not make his way through. But as we watch and ride along here with Mr. Keller, Kimani is pushing and pushing and pushing. 7 seconds is the gap, and he can see the Swiss driver ahead of him, and will be trying his best to see where he can gain that extra advantage here this afternoon. But Mr. Eastman now under 7 seconds is the gap. Luis Arenas makes that move, stick on Mr. Emmanuel. Not sure if there was contact there, but nonetheless, Roger Keller now coming around the final few sequences of the track. I'm sure is hoping and praying that Mr. Eastman finds some way to just slow down a little bit, but that gap has dropped to 5 seconds. Was this the right strategy for Mr. Roger Keller as he heads down now into the final few sections? Mr. Kimani Eastman there now heading down straight, funny, ready and ripe for the picking. Can see the Swiss driver right there in front. 4.3 seconds there. They rally around the final, what is this, 3 corners. And as it stands, that looks like the strategy has played out for Mr. Keller ahead of him. And Mr. Keller will be coming along. Jaden Harrison just comes around the line to finish in P1. Rohir Robinson in P2. Roger Keller in P3. And Kimani Eastman trailing. Tried his best, but could not make that time. And now comes around 4P4 right behind Roger Keller. Luis Arenas as well in P5. Emmanuel Rayon in P6. And Seno in P7. Nicholas Donald in P8. And as well, John Singleton, who I did notice take fuel in those last moments of the race. So not sure if he was running out of gas is why he pitted, or if he just said enough is enough with these tires. I'm not too sure, but nonetheless, as it stands, Jaden Harrison in P1. Lucky there from Rohir Robinson. Lucky for Jaden. Unfortunate for Rohir Robinson with the timing of the rain, but he was in front and built a very good gap within the time that he got that rain, between the start of the rain and heading into the pits. So unfortunately for him, did not or was not able to enter the pits without any necessary enter the pits without the drive-through penalty. Sorry, the kick at the top of the screen did get me off board a little bit, but nonetheless, I'm guessing that was a mistake. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, what a first race. I'm so sorry for the drivers that they had the full the start of the first race and then this one now, but nonetheless, the two come around into the pits to cap off their victory here. In P1 was Jaden Harrison, P2 was Mr. Rohir Robinson, and P3 was Mr. Roger Keller of Switzerland. We'll just take a quick picture here for the banner for our social media, but nonetheless, what an epic showcase of talent here as we see somebody drifting in. I think that's Mr. Keller. No, that was Mr. Singleton, my apologies. And the drivers should be parking up in Park for Me format, but unfortunately not finding themselves where they need to be found.